Welcome back, everybody, to our Parks and Recreation Professional Interview Series. It's a mouthful. Um, Today we have Jamie Woolery with us. Jamie, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Jamie, you are
Excellent.
at Eastern Kentucky University.
I am in the College of Health Sciences.
Real quick, tell us what your job title is and what part of the university you work for.
So I work for the College of Health Sciences. I'm a recruitment and retention coordinator. So a lot of different things every day, but mostly I see students when they come in. And so we plan all the events and all the marketing and all the things for them. And then we plan events for them once they get here, make sure they're able to stay here, make sure they're getting the support and resources that they need to be successful.
And so we'll get in the Wayback Machine. I like that term. I heard it on a podcast. We'll get in the Wayback Machine. Um,
I like it. Let's do it.
Tell us where you grew up, where you're from, and what you did is fun for as a kiddo.
So I'm from a small town called Urban, Kentucky. So it's about 25 minutes away from Richmond, which is where Eastern Kentucky University is. So as a child, I lived in a pretty rural part of the community. And I remember very vividly playing outside. That was the majority of my time. Vividly playing outside, games, board games. I'm still a huge fan of board games, like, still love them. We actually just had game night here in the college not that long ago. So board games now, and as a young adult, I was probably more into reading. A little bit of hiking, not a ton. I'm not like an avid hiker. Don't call me to go like mountain hiking, like could walk one trail. So any kind of outside thing, I like it, but I'm not in for like multiple hours of it. So that's kind of what I do for fun and what I did for fun as a child.
And so, growing up in really close to where you're at now,
Yeah.
when you started looking at colleges or universities for your post high school education, um, what went through your mind? How'd you choose where you went, or so where'd you go? What went through your mind, and how'd you make that decision?
So I have both of my first two degrees from Eastern Kentucky University, which is really close to my hometown. I was a commuter. The decision was pretty much made for me. I was going to live at home. I was going to travel 25 minutes to and from. There was not really a lot of other options, and that's just kind of normal for where I'm from. Um, the other options were going to be hours kind of away, or, at least 1 hour away, and that was maybe not something my family could do financially. So I'm a first generation college graduate. So for that, neither of my parents went to college. My dad raised me as a single parent in my teenage years. So we just kind of made the decision economically. What was best for us was for me to live at home, go to Eastern, live, live that way. So I have both of my master's and my undergraduate degree from Eastern, but my doctoral degree will not come from Eastern. So it will come from across the state at Western Kentucky University. As a hilltopper. So we'll not.
Boo, boo.
So
No, just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah, yeah. So go Colonels and go Tops, right? Like, I don't know which one. Cameron, my friend from grad school, his also is in Parks and Rec, would say go Tops. So I think I'll throw that in there for him.
So your undergraduate degree, what was it in, and how did you choose that major?
So I actually have a general studies degree for my undergraduate degree. I was not decisive enough before I got to my junior year. And so I liked a lot of things and I couldn't pick one. So I just got a general studies degree. And I have two minors in women's studies and African American studies, particularly the history of both. And I teach a human sexuality class with that. Um, but my master's is in Parks and Rec and RPA. So
And what made you think? What made you consider or look into Parks and Rec as a degree after general studies, but the African American history and studies and the women's gender studies and stuff like that. So, what made you, which are both cool fields, what made
they
you
are.
shift over to Rec and Park?
Okay, so I told you I work for the College of Health Sciences. I have worked here from a student. And so I actually was working full time, and Dr. McChesney, whom you know, um, kind of recruited me into it at a meeting one day. Kind of said, like, I think this is where you can be. I think this would be where you would be successful. you have a lot of the talents that we need. And so it kind of is history from there. So I think that was in 2000, oh, I don't know, 13. And so I finished in 2015. But I've loved every minute of it. I've loved every minute of that program, every minute of working semi in the field. I still use all of my learned abilities from that program. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened. Kind of quickly. I finished my bachelor's degree in like June. I was a summer grad. And then classes started like August 17th or something. And so I applied and immediately got in. So I had like a 3-week gap between my bachelor's degree and my master's degree. And there was like no break because Dr. McChesney was so set on me starting the program.
Well, before we go on the next question, I'm glad he did,
Yeah,
because
me
that's when
too.
I met you, and um, like it's interesting to me which folks when you work in, and we'll talk about your job here in a minute, I guess, but
Yeah.
you work in there, like you and I interacted a lot with that, and then we had class, and we worked on different stuff together in those classes and whatnot, and just it's always interesting to me, like which students you continue having a relationship with, and those relations are different for every student, right? But it was one of those things that you were a special student to me, and always always good to like come over, and even after you got out of the program, I'd stop by and say hi and whatnot. And
Yes, I
it was
love
always
that.
a
I
good
wish
time.
that we could still do that. But this telecommunication is working, right? We're
Yeah,
all COVID, but like, that's a good way to connect with people still. And
sure.
yeah,
It's
you're
it's a
absolutely a
good
special person to me too. So
this virtual is better than it's a substitute that's a lot better than not having it. Like, I'd rather be there in
yes,
person, but it's pretty darn close second.
it's a
So
good medium.
right, and it's so far, I like it instead of having some other meetings in person.
Yeah,
So,
I know. I'm trying
uh,
to get a couple meetings switched back to virtual.
right, right. So you talked about you worked in a college as an undergraduate student. So tell us a little bit about. Well, first, so in high school, did you have a job?
I did not. So I
Okay.
did work in high school. I started working as soon as I got to college, though.
And so you went to the College of Health Sciences as a while pursuing your undergraduate degree. So tell us a little bit about, I guess, kind of trace your path that you've taken, um, not just where, but how your responsibilities have changed as you've migrated down that path as well.
So I started as a student worker who worked about 10 hours a week. It wasn't a ton of hours. It was just enough to say that I was doing something and have something to put on the resume. That developed into like a part-time situation because someone was transitioning out of our office. And my family situation became a little more dire. And so I transitioned part-time. And it was in an office on campus that is a student support office and a student support resource office. So we would give like academic tests, we would give resource materials to students, we would, host weekend sessions or like study skill areas and stuff like that. When that person then transitioned out of the office as a retirement, then I took a full-time role as a office like support manager. So kind of running, day to day upkeep of the computers, a few events here and there, but nothing major. And then in grad school, I started looking for jobs, definitely in the Parks and Rec field, into the public sector. And that is not what happened. I actually was offered an advising position with students and interacting and kind of, making sure they were in the right paths to go to majors, so professional advising experience. And so I did that, and I did that and full time recruiting for about 4 years now. And so last year we officially switched the title over to recruitment and retention coordinator. So I've been 2 years in this role. Even though I've been doing the event planning and the recruitment and the, on the road situation and the marketing for a long time, we were kind of balancing two jobs. I was full time advising and full time recruiting, but there was no balance and we were just not succeeding very well in both of those. So we chose to make it a full time position in recruiting and retention. So that's kind of where the path leads today.
And so, you know, it makes me smile. It makes me happy when people do, you retain the good talent, right? And you and I have talked about this before, where you do what it takes to keep the people if you can.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that that's what happened with you. They found ways to make that happen. Um, so, in your current position now, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you aid and help the different departments in the college?
So I like to kind of describe it as a liaison between the college and all the other pieces that are going to get students to campus, and then all the other pieces that are going to keep students here. So I might work with admissions to make sure we're, working at the highest standards to make sure we're admitting students and they're ready for our programs, because a lot of our programs are competitive. And so kind of knowing that curriculum, but also knowing that not all students are interested in all majors. And so knowing kind of how to balance that. I also do a lot of event planning, which is nice because I have the backgrounds in Parks and Rec. So a lot of event planning small scale events. So it might just be one tour that I'm currently kind of trying to lead a group of people to learn more about giving tours and being more of like that interpretation side of our majors. It's an experience that I never knew I was going to have. So that's been fun to kind of watch that grow out of nothing. And then big scale events. So we just had, in May, we had what's called signing day. So we know that there's signing day for athletes and everybody wears their favorite hat for their school and signs the piece of paper. And so a national initiative was to start college signing day for university students who were not going to sign with an athletic collegiate organization. And so we actually planned a full scale signing day where they come and sign their document with their chair and committed to a program. Balloons, confetti, you know me. I had the whole works. And then marketing. So social media. I work with communication and brand management to make sure all the information going out on our social media and websites, they match the marketing strategies from the university. So what seems kind of daunting is not that bad. It's, making sure we're following branding rules and we're not overstepping kind of into the world we don't want to be in. I chair a few committees. So not that many, but a few. And then I sat on a ton of committees on the university level to help kind of make sure the people that we're bringing in are good candidates, but also the people and the places and the retainment of those people and being able to send them back home and show that they're working, show that they're having a good experience. Those are important to us. And so I sit on a few committees for that as well.
And with that, so you kind of brought it up a little bit as you're discussing is, both from your undergrad with the African American and Women Gender Studies and with the Master's in Rec and Park Administration, what courses or special experiences or assignments, for lack of a better word, do you think that really helped you prepare to be really in that role that kind of does a lot of different things to make sure students are successful?
I think all of the Parks and Rec program did that. The thing that I like the most about Parks and Rec is the service orientation and how much service learning is invited and is expected really from the field. I don't think that I could lead a group of people without having had that experience. I know we've done work together in different cities and kind of led maybe a smaller scale experience, but being able to I lead a group of student ambassadors. And so being able to take what I know from practitioners and being able to take what I learned and put it together to lead, it's about a group of 20 to 25 of those students, and expecting them to have some kind of service they're doing, they're developing right now. It's like they want to do a full day of service for a community high school, and so taking what they know and what they're a part of and giving them pieces but really shaping the way that they're going to lead. I think that that's all part of service learning, and I think that's been the most beneficial.
And to kind of go with that, I guess is, as you think about like student success and how, I consider you to be a successful individual, right? Um, and, and you being a first generation student and you being from a rural area, do you feel like you connect with these students in a way that maybe some other folks can't?
I definitely feel like the first generation students that I connect a little more with them. I don't want to say I don't connect with them all on a certain level, but I think it's a different kind of level to say like, hey, I know family probably doesn't have the money for this. Let's try to figure out a way to make that work for
Right.
us. I know your family probably doesn't have the money for you to study abroad, and that's okay. But like, here are some really great leadership experiences that you don't have to study abroad to have, and they probably don't cost as much, right? For me, it's all about empowering them to know what their value is and how much they're worth and what they can ask from people. Um, I think it's been a really fun ride. I don't know that I've always been that person, but that's definitely the person I want to be. I'm trying to think about an example. I don't have one. I feel like I should, but I don't. I just think it's about a medium that you can connect on, and that's it for me for a lot of kids. Not always. Some of them I grew up in a single parent household, right? Like sometimes that's the medium that we can kind of meet on and we can kind of talk about that. Yeah. Sometimes it's because they see I have over there on my wall, I have a LGBTQ friendly sticker hanging. And so sometimes it's that medium. So it's a lot of different variety in your everyday life to try to meet that match.
And the reason I was asked, because I know that, so I'm a first generation student as well. And especially, and I don't, maybe for you, but I think a lot of people just kind of expect or think that people that are professors don't come from those kind of backgrounds.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's something that when they find out, they're like, are you serious? Like, okay, then we have something in common and we've got that connection. Yeah. And, it's interesting that bridges that gap, right? The fact that something that I had no doing in, and just happened to be, and there are some hurdles and some barriers to overcome, don't get me wrong, but it's interesting to me that that's the thing that connects it, when there's other, especially in different courses, like, we're learning about and teaching about the same, we're all kind of interested in the same thing. And that's not so much the connection, but the first generation student is. But,
yeah.
And, and I remember, you talk about the LGBTQ friendly stuff. And I remember, there's a lot of initiatives on how to do that and handle, to make people feel welcome, that you're accessible and open and all that. So, and it's still, I'm a little bit older than you. It's still something I'm learning a lot about. And, like you, I think we have, and I'm not trying to go too much about me here. The philosophy is making sure that education is accessible and inclusive, no matter where or who you are. I may not, in full disclosure, I may not understand things, but it doesn't matter to me, to be honest. Whether it's Jamie or somebody else, it doesn't matter to me who you are, where you come from. I'm there because I want you in my class learning how to do park projects.
Yeah.
We're gonna go out and we're gonna go to a park. Does it matter to me what your romantic preference is? Does it matter to me what your race is or whatever it may be? No, because I'm gonna rope you in and I'm gonna make you work at it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, but but I think it's important. I guess I'll go back to my point. Is it's important to make people feel welcome, and include them. It's and somebody told me this. I don't know. It may have been something I talked about before, but it's one thing to be asked to the dance. Mm-hmm. It's another thing to be asked on the dance floor.
Yep.
And I think that's pretty important. So anyway, that's my rant.
No. I mean, we could get on it together here. Yeah, my office is a welcome space. We do not call it a safe space. We call it a recharging space. So instead of you just being safe here, you can also be safe, but you can get what you need to recharge, and kind of take on whatever that barrier is, whatever that accessibility issue is. We can talk about how to make that work. So, you can't see that wall over there, but it's like filled with like candy and junk to eat and like stuff. So, you can't see that. I won't turn it around. It looks a little shambly right now. So the students know that, and they tend to come by and just, take what they need, or they might just come get a snack and I know they're here and they walk back out and they didn't eat anything but a snack from me. And so that's taking some food insecurity away, and that's all we can do is kind of bridge that gap for what they need.
So, and I guess, like you said, we can go on a big tangent with that. Is what I wanted to talk about is, like, in not nothing specific, but I guess in general, Um, you know, I consider you still young in your career. I consider myself still young in my career, to be honest.
For sure. Yeah.
But so big picture, not so much with your job or your position, but what are some of the things that you think you're interested in professionally long term?
I think I've told you this. I am not taking anything off the table after hopefully next summer. So I've been asked this question a lot lately. I didn't know that it was going to become the hot topic question for when you become almost done with a doctoral degree, what you were going to be asked to do. Um, I don't have any set in stone plans. I would either like to work in administration and leadership in higher ed, and making sure that student success and a college education is accessible and affordable and inclusive. Or I would like to work in the teaching side, whether that be maybe back in RPA, which could be a dream, or if it's somewhere else, that's fine too. But still making sure that accessibility is there, conversations with adults, that we're not accessible because I wear a blazer and jeans, like the bottom of my clothes are not dress pants right now. Making sure you're looking accessible and it's not just a facade that you're putting on, that I have these degrees and I have this education, but I can still go back home and that's still first gen, no access. Let's talk about that. Let's figure that out. So long term, I don't know. I didn't know that was gonna be. Maybe you should have told me. Like I should have asked. Maybe I should have asked. Like, what happens when you get almost done with a degree? Are people gonna start asking questions like that? So I don't know. Definitely open. So we'll see what happens here.
Well, I told you I was talking to a friend before we started recording, and I got asked that same thing, like, what was your thoughts when you're going through that process? And I, you're not alone. When I got close to being done, I started applying for different because my job was coming to an end. I was on a contract doing the state park mapping and master planning and all that in Oklahoma, and I had a great experience, but I knew it was coming to an end, so I had to find something. And I
Yeah.
applied for a lot of jobs, academic and otherwise. I love my job. I love what I do, um, but I like other stuff too.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, and it wasn't until I interviewed at Eastern Kentucky University for my first academic job that I felt like that was, like I'd been offered other jobs previous to that, in like February, March, April, whatever. No, February,
Yeah.
March, and it didn't feel right, and I knew that, and I was like, this, one paid really well, and it hurt to say no, but I knew that was the right answer. So I guess my advice is to whatever it may be, it could be anything, but make sure it feels right. Um, and because I don't regret saying no to those other positions, and I don't regret saying yes to EKU because it felt right, and it felt right because it was the right choice. Um, could I have told you that I was going to be faculty when I got close to done my PhD? Nope, because that really wasn't. There wasn't one path for me, right? And I know that's
Yeah.
different. Some people get a PhD and they're got for lack of a better word, blinders on there in that path, and I don't know. That doesn't seem like it was me, and I don't know if that's how you kind of feel or not. But I think you've got a lot more opportunities than I did. I think that you're a much more diverse and able candidate for lack of a better word. I don't know what I'm trying to, but I think you'll have a lot of opportunities. So don't just find your right spot. Find where you're home. So okay, that's my second rant for the day.
Thank you though. That was good advice. I'm gonna find the sweet spot.
So just a couple things before I let you go. First, um, you know, we kind of talked about what you want to do in the future, but if you could have any job, your dream job, and make a living, be comfortable, whatever but you could have a dream job. What would that be and why?
Oh, I don't know. I've never thought about it. If I've always said that I would really thrive as like an interpreter with like the state parks. I've always said that. So, I love telling a story, and I think my favorite, like if I could do anything and I didn't have to have any skill and I didn't have to have any education for it, would be to tell stories all the time. Whatever the story is, wherever that leads, but just to tell a story about something, someone's, maybe that's what I'll do in retirement. Maybe I'll go around to the state parks and tell the story of the state parks or something crazy. That's like my favorite thing is to tell a story. So I guess probably that. I always, but we joke, my friend group and I joke that when I retire, the job that I really want is to drive the trolley on campus so that I can hear all this gossip from the day that this telling. So I don't know, maybe that's like kind of like telling a story, right? Like I could hear the gossip and and give them some story life lessons. Maybe that's my dream job. I don't know. I don't know. I've never thought about it really.
Well, I've got several too. Like I've gone from mowing grass to being professional fisherman, and so forth.
All good options.
Right. I don't know if there's a much better gig than mowing grass. Like I could listen to a podcast or music, and it's very definitive on what you have and have not accomplished.
Hmm.
You know, so I
I
think
do
there's
love
a
a
lot.
podcast. Maybe, maybe that would
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I do
So,
love a podcast.
well, the last thing I have is, you've definitely got a different career trajectory and a different background than a lot of people. If somebody who's watching this, a young student or an older student or somebody thinking about what they want to do with their future, and they think, like they have a connection with you, like we talked about, they say, I feel like Jamie and I have a lot in common, or I have this thing in common, Jamie, and all that. Um, and they're wondering, like, what I should do, or what should I think about, or what I should consider. Do you have any um, advice or words of wisdom?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest thing that I tell my students, so this group of about 20 that we kind of have and I lead, the thing that I want them to know is that they need to lead through action and through motivation. Um, it may not be your turn to win this time. You need to stand in the background and cheer for the next person, right? But to lead through motivation, empowerment, and integrity, that is high value. So teaching empowerment skills, teaching how to if this isn't your turn, that's okay. But it is that person's turn. So let's cheer for them. Let's make sure they get what they need. And then when it's your turn, hopefully those people will reciprocate that for you.
And I think that's solid advice. I think that sometimes you got to be the leader. Sometimes you got to be the cheerleader. Sometimes you got to be the worker bee, whatever you want to call it.
Sometimes you got to be all at once, but
Yeah, that's true.
you,
uh,
but you need to be good at all of those things: integrity, motivation, and empowerment.
um, so I'll say thank you so much for joining me today. And I think I say this every time I talk to you: is if you ever need me, you let me know,
Yes,
and
absolutely. If you
I'll
ever need anything on this side of the world, let me know.
I will absolutely do that. Thank you so
Students
much,
ever need
Jamie.
anything, let me know.
Right, I will do it. Thank you,
All
Jamie.
right. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.